Welcome to Seth's Daily Podcast. Thought you guys this wouldn't be possible. Thank you guys for subscribing. We're blessed enough to have an interview with ufofred. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, doing good. How about yourself?
Doing good, man. Excited for this interview. Anytime I can talk cryptids and UFOs and aliens, I'm very excited. That's actually my favorite topic to talk about.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I do, right? That's part of my gig, I guess. I love talking about it.
Definitely, man. It's very interesting, man. And what state are you actually from? I'm from the state of Kentucky. I don't know if you're.
Okay, well, I'm originally from the state of New York, from the Adirondacks, but I live in Maine. I came to Maine when I was in the Navy, and I just like the outdoors of it. I mean, Maine is basically it's all wilderness just about. We have, we have a couple cities, but it's a short drive and you're in the deep of it. So it's all good.
Definitely, man. Thanks for your service, first of
Hey,
all.
thanks.
Definitely, man. And I know you're also part of MUFON. When did that start?
Well, uh, about 10 years ago. Well, so it was probably 11 years ago when I first became interested and realized that I too could become a member of MUFON and investigate UFOs. I'm not sure where I've heard it, but I signed up, took the training, became certified, and started doing investigations. And as I told you prior to the show, I did that for a few years. And then not too long ago, I became the state director for the state of Maine. But I stepped down from that because I prefer to do some other things than to be an administrator. Excuse me. So how did you what got your interest in aliens and UFOs? What was the first thing that happened or what caught your eye?
I've been interested in Bigfoot and other cryptids like my whole entire life, but I've actually had experience with the UFO as a little kid.
Okay, so you taken or did you just
No,
see it?
I just
Oh,
seen one. I was in a swimming pool at
okay.
like the age of 10 or 11 and seen a some like pyramid type thing in the sky.
Nice.
It was for a second. It was like flew like that. I remember seeing like red lights on the back of it and it just like flying.
Right. So yeah, that I mean, that's kind of how I got started as a kid. I was sleeping and I woke up. I don't know. I went to the window and I saw a craft fly over my house really slow. I can see underneath it. And then I ran to the other window and I watched it go to over to the woods. And from since then, it's like, what was that? I need to know more. Right. Because that wasn't a plane. I grew up around planes. I know what planes are. Aren't quiet, not that low. Right. And so yeah, that's what caught my attention. And then, I'm not sure how old you are, but in the 70s, there was a great show called In Search of with Leonard Nimoy, and he went through all the possibilities of everything that was weird. It was great for, the budding weirdo that I was.
Yeah, I've been interested in the same type of stuff that you're interested in as well, man. As a kid, used to watch like unsolved mysteries. I'm 24, so I would watch like reruns of unsolved
Okay.
mysteries and stuff. And yeah, honestly, that was my first introduction to like UFOs and aliens. And obviously, I've watched Ancient Aliens. Yeah,
Right. So you said you're in North Carolina?
I'm in Kentucky.
Oh, I don't know why I said North Carolina. I'm thinking I might be thinking about somebody else. But so in Kentucky, um, they have some very famous Bigfoot sightings, right, in the area
There's a
in
few.
Kentucky. Now, do you know anybody in your area that has seen a Bigfoot?
Yeah, a bunch of them, but you can't get them to come on camera and talk about it. They just want to stay anonymous.
Well, I had an experience as a kid, and I was quiet about it for a long time because I mean, a lot of people see UFOs, but not everybody sees a Bigfoot, and it is weird. But you just keep working on it. Just keep working on it.
definitely.
You know, they'll feel better. Tell them they'll feel better if they tell their story. That's
Definitely, man. One of my friends actually was the one of the few Bigfoot researchers here in this region where I'm at, which is Eastern Kentucky, and
okay.
he passed a year ago, and he had a bunch of stories and stuff. And there was one story about actually a lake that's less than a mile from my house. This woman on a kayak, and she was kayaking under a waterfall and seen a Bigfoot above the cliff and was running. It was like 7 foot tall or something. I think that's what she said.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does she mention the amount of fear that she had seeing it? Or
Nah,
was she
she
not
didn't.
fear? No. It might have been far enough away she felt safe.
Yeah, it was way up there. Yeah, and actually at that cliff, it wouldn't be possible for a human to go up there.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting. Very intriguing. I'd like to know more about that.
yeah. Honestly, I don't remember the woman's name, but there's a bunch of sightings around this lake, man. Bunch of UFO sightings as well. He actually had a UFO sighting of like a big white light over the lake.
Right. Well, I've come to learn from, just knowing people and being in, in this type of field is that if somebody has had one type of experience, they've had multiple types of experience. It's kind of like ghosts. A lot of people who've seen ghosts have seen UFOs. It's just, I don't know, maybe I'm gonna say we, like I'm, oh yeah, like, me. No, but I'm just talking just as the group, um, maybe more open to that type of experience, right? There, that the veil might have been removed from their eyes, right? They're more open to it. Because I think a lot of people may see stuff, but their brain won't let them see it. They just refuse to believe it. So,
Definitely,
I mean,
man.
it is fright. It is. I mean, it can be frightening. Like I had a Bigfoot experience when I was a teenager, and it was frightening. It was a face to face experience. I met him on the trails in the woods, and to this day, I remember everything about it except for his face. I just can't remember. I looked right at it. I can remember his body shape. I can remember his silhouette against the background. Can't remember his face. And I think that's my brain won't let me.
Definitely could be fear, I guess.
Oh, I was afraid. I was
Yeah,
so afraid, right? I walked out of the woods because if you grew up in the woods, right, you don't run because, food runs in the woods. And, just walked out and I went home and I sat in my room for, I don't know, a couple hours and just thought about it. I never really told anybody until I started meeting other people who have had those type of experiences. Like, well, I'm gonna share it now. I feel comfortable enough to share it because I'm in good company, right? Yeah. So,
now, have you actually talked to like an abductee before from the state of Maine?
well, that's the kind of the thing that I do now for Move On. I'm part of what's called the Experiencer Resource Team. And what happens if somebody has an experience, they'll fill out a questionnaire and it'll be routed to whatever part of the country where we have a member. And I represent New England, and I will call people and I will listen to their story and see if I can provide any assistance if they need to speak to a therapist, they need a support group, those kind of things. But there's a lot of people who had a lot of experiences, and my job is really not to judge them. And no matter how crazy the story is, that's not my story, it's their story. I'm just there to listen, and if I can provide help, I will.
Definitely. What are you allowed to talk about some of the stories? Or
um i I try not to because they're not really my stories, they're those people's stories. I wish I could, because I just had one the other day, and it was frightening. Eventually I'll probably, it's kind of fresh with me, and eventually I'll probably share some aspects of it, but it's really fresh and it was very frightening. And these people that are experiencing trauma from these kind of experiences,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's, I mean, I'm fortunate that I did not have that happen to me as a kid or as an adult, or I don't know. I mean, I had some weird experiences growing up where I would wake up in a different room in the house where I don't remember how I got there. But was I abducted? I don't think so. If I was, I don't have any conscious memory of it. Thank God.
Definitely, man. My buddy, Russ Kellett, he is from the UK, and he's an abductee. He was actually in a war with aliens and was on an alien soldier. Was an alien soldier. He is a UFO hunter, and he has his own show and stuff. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a
What's
good
his
dude.
What's his
Russ
name?
Kellett. Russ
I'm
Kellett.
not the name's not familiar.
He's from the UK. He has it caused him some health problems. He's legit. He's legit.
I yeah, like anything's possible. You have to go into all of this with an open mind because the stories I've heard, anything's possible. I'm not
Yeah.
going to dismiss any story.
He's definitely legit. There's actually he has books out and stuff, and in one of the books, like after he got abducted, he had to go to the hospital and stuff, and the doctor wrote on one of his papers UFO researcher or UFO hunter. It's either UFO hunter or UFO researcher. That why would the doctor write that? That don't make any sense.
I
And,
don't
and he
know.
actually had a document in the book of it, so the doctor actually did.
Right. Well, I think John Burroughs has a VA rating from his incident at the Remington Forest. I mean, he actually has a VA rating from whatever happened in those woods. So if it didn't happen, how did he get that rating? Right. I mean, it's they just can't make it up. I think he had some kind of heart damage. I don't know enough of his story. I know. I mean, I've heard him speak a few times, but again, I don't like to repeat other people's stories. I only like to repeat a little bit of it because it's their story.
I only repeat that story because he's been on my podcast and told.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
So he shared it with you.
yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
He's been on my podcast a bunch of times. He's actually going to be back on next Sunday.
Nice.
I agree with you. It's not our story to share, but he has books about it and stuff. You should definitely read his books. They're good.
I'll get it on my list of my other 100 books that I'm still trying to read.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It's
yeah. You should definitely talk to him too. He's a good dude.
so what other kind of interests do you have in the Bigfoot or cryptid? Is it just Bigfoot or how do you feel about like the
Mothman.
Mothman and
Yeah,
Nessie?
yeah.
And
I'm definitely very interested in the Mothman. Point Pleasant is about 2.5 hours away from where I live here in Eastern Kentucky. And I've been there before, and I've actually interviewed the guy that makes the costumes for the Mothman Museum. He makes the costumes for them.
okay. Now, when you were there, does it give you an eerie feeling knowing that what happened there? That when you because right, they
Yeah,
built a new bridge, right? So that's gonna have a kind of an eerie feeling to that whole area.
definitely, definitely, man. When you go inside the museum, they actually have pieces of like documents and pieces of let like I don't know if they have pieces of the bridge, but they have like letters that the witnesses wrote each other when the man in black was coming to speak to them, and the witnesses wrote to each other about the man in black coming to visiting them. They wrote to each other about that, and just seeing like the statues of the man in black is kind of creepy. The statue of the Mothman, you can feel like a type of paranormal type of feeling. I'm actually a former ghost hunter, so
I think I think it's all connected. And I think a lot of the people that well, I'm not gonna say a lot, but some of the people that I speak to about their experiences, they're having more of a paranormal experience versus an alien experience. Because I'm finding it's my thought, of course, is that during the pandemic, people open themselves up for these parasitic entities that they're, I believe they're earthbound entities. They're multi-dimensional earthbound entities that feed on the anxiety and fear. And I just feel that a lot of the issues of people that I've talked with, it kind of sounds like that. But then again, my opinion, I'm no expert.
I don't think anybody's an expert on any of these topics.
Right. Yeah, there's that when people say they're an expert on the news. It's like, really, where did you go to college for this? Because
Definitely,
we're right, we're all just kind of guessing. We're all just throwing something out there and seeing what sticks.
definitely,
Right.
man. I will tell you a weird story out of Moorhead, Kentucky. Here, this is possibly a abduction. There was a woman like seen floating in the air and screaming, and she disappeared and hasn't been seen since.
Really? How long ago was that?
I'm pretty sure that was like in the 80s or 90s.
Right. Because I mean, I think that was right around the time that a lot of things were happening. Right. The 70s were a pretty busy time for the aliens. And right. I mean, they just were. I mean, a lot of sightings were taking place in the 70s. And then I think a lot of people, like in the 80s, and I think a lot of people just got distracted where they stop talking about it. And now everybody's talking about it. And I don't think that's a good thing because these TV shows are just putting ideas in people's head that now every light in the sky is a spaceship. And unfortunately, it's probably not, because I'm finding I get more light. I hear more about lights than I hear about craft. Right? What happened to the craft? That yeah, I'm more interested in that, like discs, and then the chevron shaped craft and the triangle craft. Now the chevron craft, I think whoever's flying that, I mean, they're up to no good, because I've had reports where people have witnessed it and then felt nausea after witnessing, close proximity to these craft. So there's something about that one that gives me the kind of the creeps.
Definitely. Um, there's been a lot of cigar crafts here lately too. See,
Right. I mean, yeah, that's the right. Excuse me. That's kind of the thing that I'm interested in seeing, a craft, because to me, there's just something more valid than a light in the sky. Because a light in the sky could be anything. Because how many pieces of space junk do we have floating around Earth?
bunch could be satellites.
Right. There's so much junk floating, orbiting our planet that's reflecting light. It's hard to tell what a light is. But when you see somebody reports seeing a craft land, and people in entities get out to adjust something on the craft, there's something to that story. Something you can chew on, as they say.
Definitely. Have you actually been hearing like lot of crafts landing in like in the middle of nowhere and stuff?
I like I said, I haven't been focusing on the sighting reports as much as I have been talking to people, because I find it more fascinating to talk to people about their experiences, about what kind of messages they're getting from these beings. Some of them are positive, some of them are very negative. For example, I will share one story. A woman witnessed three men in black, and they told her they were here for her soul. And she told them no, which they moved on, right? But that's some scary business. I mean, I, I wish I could tell you the whole story because you'd have goosebumps, right? I'm just gonna tell you that part of it, because that's the main thing. They said they were here for her soul. and and that's doesn't seem like a great idea, right?
Yeah. Do you think they're like government officials, or do you think they're like um paranormal or aliens?
I don't know. I mean, there's only been a few documented cases of photos of them, and those photos look pretty creepy, right? The from yeah, from the ones I've seen, I don't want any of them knocking on my door. Let's put it that way. And I don't think they will. I don't think I'm high level enough with my information that they're thinking I'm changing people's minds. So they probably not going to be here, right?
What was this woman like? Did she have like, not to get like in too much detail, but did she have like anything big or something about UFOs and aliens? Is that why they visited her, or just
No,
randomly?
it was a random thing. I think she was saying her car broke down and they pulled up they had a like a black SUV and they got out. They were all three different heights and there was a saucer craft in the field that she had noticed after they pulled up. I don't know about you, but I'd be a little freaked out.
Definitely. I don't want to say. Definitely don't want to sue.
Yeah. So what other things go on down there in Kentucky for paranormal? So you said you were a ghost hunter?
Yeah.
So you were a part of a group or
Me and my family did a little bit. Me and some of my cousins did. There, there's been a lot of like ghost stuff, and I believe somewhere close to Louisville, there's like a goat man type thing.
I'm not familiar with Goat Man, but I'm willing to bet there's probably a Goat Man somewhere. I mean, there's so many different cryptids. Like New England has what's known as a puckwudgie. Have you ever heard about them?
No, what's that?
They're basically they look like little people, and the whole idea is they convince you to go with them, and then you're never seen again, right? I believe there's some photographs of them. Very, not super sharp, but flesh tones in nature is not a thing, and people have taken photos of these things in the trees. So yeah, then they try to convince you to go with them. I don't know about you, but if I saw a little fella, telling me to come with him, I was like, I don't know. Do you have gold? Do you, what do you, what's my, what am I going with you for? Need me, push your car to get it started.
That's creepy, man.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of haunted places down here, though. There's Bardstown, where the outlaw Jesse James's ghost is supposed to be.
So have you ever got an EVP in that area?
Yeah, I have. I have. Not
Yeah.
of Jesse James, but of where he stayed at. I've actually went on a ghost tour before, and when they told like a door to close and open, it did.
But have you gotten EVPs for yourself? So,
Yeah,
because those fascinate me. Because there are a lot of garbage EVPs, but boy, there's a lot of good ones, and those good ones are scary,
yeah.
especially the ones of children.
I'm good. I don't,
Right? There's something about it. That's just super scary because it happens, right? I mean, in the history of America, there have been episodes where a lot of children have died for illnesses, and I think there's in New Hampshire, in the woods, there's like a graveyard, and like it's all children. It's it's just creepy,
definitely. I'm good on.
right?
I've
Right.
been to a theater actually in Cynthiana, Kentucky, where there's a bunch of children spirits at, and there's a lady in white that comes on the top floor of the theater and stuff. we had that to ourselves one night, and you could hear like shoes squeaking and stuff and everything. It was weird. You hear
So
footsteps coming up the stairs and stuff. That place was really haunted.
yeah, I'm not really a ghost guy because I've experienced my whole life, but it is creepy. It's like I used to work in a place where I would it was haunted because I would see the person's shadow following me up the stairs. And I used to tell people, I'm like, hey, you gonna be here by yourself this afternoon? Be careful. And they would actually hear him open and close doors. It's like maybe he can do a little work while he's here, instead of just making all this ruckus.
Yeah.
Sweep the floor, ghosts. Come on.
Yeah, I used to be big into ghost hunting. I'm not much anymore. I'm more interested in UFOs, Bigfoot, and Dogman a little bit actually.
Oh, how about Skinwalker?
I don't know too much about Skinwalker.
The whole Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know a lot about it. I think there's something to it. I intentionally have been staying away from it because I feel that if I get interested, and I'll go down that rabbit hole, and I know my limitations. I only have so much time in the day.
Me too. I think it's paranormal though. I've looked at it a little bit, but I've tried not to get into it too much because I think it's paranormal.
I think it is as well. Like I said, I find it interesting, and I'd really love to know more, but I don't want to dedicate time to it because I will, right? It's like Roswell. You start going down the Roswell rabbit hole. You start reading all the books. And I what I think of Roswell, I think something happened there, but I think just over the years, people continued to do it's kind of like building a cake. I'm gonna put a little more frosting on this cake. And okay, we're gonna put little sprinkles on this cake. I think we've moved so far from the truth that we no longer know what the truth is. But I think something had happened there in 1947. It's my opinion. Thank you.
I agree with you, man. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely some people that want to put more on the story so they can, I guess, sell books and stuff.
Right? I mean, a lot of ufology is like that. There's the story starts out great, but the person who actually told the story is no longer with us. So people just continue to tell the story for them. And it's hard to tell, all right, where does the story, the true story end, and their cake and ice cream start, because they needed to sell a book, they needed to do something. But it's like, for example, Rendlesham Forest. Something happened in that, in 1980. Oh, where'd you go? There you go. You blanked out.
Bobby.
But I feel something happened right in 1980 that affected all those people that were there. But people continued to tell the story and kept adding to the story. But fortunately, enough people have stuck to the story where we haven't had a lot of embellishment.
Definitely, man. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stories fabricated out there.
Well, people have to tell a story. People love telling story, and especially TV, because I got news for people who watch all these shows on TV. They're all scripted. You know, just they got to continue. They've got to continue with the show. I mean, some of the shows are pretty good, but some of them, ooh, I just can't watch it. It's like a lot of the paranormal shows. Somewhere deep down, there was some good intention for those people that are on there, but they've walked away from what they wanted to tell. because it's just too much,
Yeah. Everybody but Nick Groff. He started his own show, Nick Goff.
right?
I believe his show was legit because he because the show he was on before I don't believe was too real.
Well, I'm like I said, I think there a lot of people go into that, with good intentions, and you can usually tell. These people can usually tell, like, at the end of the show, you're not rolling your eyes. But like, have you ever watched Expedition Bigfoot?
Yeah, I have.
Right, that's a perfect example of what I would do if I was going to go try to find. I would stick to an area and I would scour that area for any details. I like that show because they're just not wandering around the woods. They're trying to get a map, grid it out, and cover all that area. So I feel that's probably, and they've got pretty a scientist there, the lady, and I don't think she's going to make stuff up, right? She's an actual scientist. So
Definitely. Yeah. Now, what's a hot spot in Maine where a bunch of UFOs been seen here lately, or just whenever you was looking at the sightings and stuff?
it's hard to tell. I mean, we have like a retired Air Force base up north. People still see a lot of craft up there. There were a lot of sightings in the 70s when it was an active base where, some of the silos, the bunkers up there something would just the power would go out, or the missiles would the guidance systems would be turned off with the craft. There's a lot of neat stories up there. Um there's I can't think of the place right now, but that there's tons of just UFOs being seen up north. But we also have to remember that Maine is a low level training run for the military. They do a lot of craft here. So therefore there's people are seeing a cross section of those craft, and probably a cross section of some kind of other craft that are looking at the craft that's being tested. So because I worked a case where of these people had witnessed a Chevron craft, and they got sick after witnessing it. And 50 miles from where they were, another group of people saw the same craft and they got sick. So there's got to be something to that. And they, just people weren't randomly just, oh, yeah, I saw this thing. Two groups of people saw the same thing 50 miles away, different parts. So there's a lot of weird things. There's a lot of weird things everywhere, right? I'm sure if I could get on to MUFON right now and look what's going on with Kentucky, right? I'm fairly certain it's probably pretty busy. Right, you
Yeah,
got it's a lot of mountain in this area there, right? And
yeah,
so it's probably pretty busy
yeah. I live in the Appalachian Mountains here in Eastern Kentucky.
because I was listening to a researcher yesterday from Maine, and he was talking about he had talked to somebody about people seeing crafts going into the mountaintops in Maine. And that seems like a fairly common thing where people report where there's mountains. So it's just odd, right?
Yeah, where I live, we actually have a lake too. So obviously, you hear about UFOs going into water as well all the time. So that could add on to it too, and that could help Bigfoot also. Bigfoot's attracted to water. Obviously, that's where all the prey and stuff is. So that help with Bigfoot. We're just in a perfect area here, just like Maine.
So now, where you're at, do you ever go out and do any Bigfoot hunting yourself?
I have not, unfortunately. Work gets in the way of that.
Right,
Yeah,
but right, just head out to the woods and just listen.
yeah. I have listened before though, but not like you know how they do on like Finding Bigfoot and try to get a response back and all that.
Yeah,
I've not done that, but I've talked to people around here that have seen Bigfoot and stuff, and that they obviously don't want to come on camera and stuff. But
right.
actually, I was supposed to go on a expedition Bigfoot hunt with my buddy that died. So
I'm sorry, but you know, maybe you should just still go. Maybe you should just go and for his memory.
absolutely, man. Yeah, he was the honestly, he was pretty much the only Bigfoot researcher here.
I bet you there's more, but you know, if you're not familiar with them, you're probably not going to know them. But just go camping and just go out and listen at night. And plus, go camping and listen at night and look up at the sky, right? Because you never know. Because a lot of times where there's a UFO sighting, there's a Bigfoot sighting.
Yeah, that's
They're
weird.
very common, very
Yeah,
common,
yeah,
and or orbs. A lot of Bigfoot sightings are included with like orbs that people see.
definitely. That was actually a question I was going to ask. Do you think there's a connection between Bigfoot and UFOs and aliens?
I believe that there is. I mean, a lot, like I said, a lot of people who see a Bigfoot will have had a UFO experience, and if not the same night, it's crazy. And what is a Bigfoot? I mean, people have witnessed Bigfoot like dematerialize, right? And to me, that's even creepier than a wild thing living in the woods that it can just cloak itself or do whatever. And you don't know where it is.
Definitely, definitely, man. And yeah, I've actually my buddy Russ Kelly, he said that Bigfoot is like a bodyguard for aliens and stuff. That's
Really? That's an interesting theory. I like that theory. But I mean, these aliens, from what I understand, I don't know if they really need a big hairy bodyguard if they can, float you through the walls.
yeah. But hey, I believe Bigfoot could be an alien. I think it's what he said as well. But he's like a soldier type thing for
All
them or
right.
something. Yeah, like they have like different types of soldiers and stuff, and I believe that's really good. Like there's he said like there's aliens for that team up with China and these other countries and stuff are going to war with each other.
Really? Well, the Bigfoot could be a multi-dimensional being that's living somewhere else in a different timeline. And what we see is like a tear in the fabric of space and time, and we happen to see it at the same time. There's so many possibilities. You could go down the rabbit hole, right?
Definitely, man. I mean, it's untelling what it is, man. For all we know, aliens could be the same thing.
Right? I mean, there's theories that aliens are us from the future coming back to visit the planet, right? I don't know why. I mean, they could be trying to figure out what happened to their DNA that they all are little bald dudes, right? Who knows? But anything's possible. I mean, anything is possible. You just have to keep an open mind.
Definitely, man. Do you
Like,
actually do it? My bad. Go ahead.
but look at Betty and Barney Hill, right? They were taken, they were shown star charts that there wasn't technology enough at the time to prove that it was a real star chart. It took years and another scientist to put it all together to prove that it was a true star chart. So there's a lot of weird things out there.
Definitely, man. Do you do your own podcast or?
I I do not. I haven't had time. I'm working on putting together a YouTube channel, but I where I go out and just talk about different things about Maine and different weird things. But I just haven't taken the time. It's just plus it's cold out.
Definitely, man. Definitely. I've thought about I used to have like a radio segment where I did like a 15-minute segment about reading Bigfoot and UFO stories with an expert, and they'd give their opinion on it, and it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I bet it was. I mean, I prefer to be like a sidekick to somebody where I can, input stuff and let them do all the real talking. I mean, I think it's fun to do this. I mean, like I said, I told you earlier, I've done a lot of media, just for some friends. I'm like
Mr.
the
Haunted, you and
Mr.
him.
Hunter. Yeah, I'm kind of like they need a guest. They call me up that day. I'm like, oh, I'll be there. What are we talking about? Let me do a little research. Well, right. Well, it was fun doing the Haunted Chronicles because he always would pick a theme, and then we'd go look for some weird stories around that theme. So that was always fun.
Yeah, he's a good dude too. He's got a good radio voice too.
Oh, yeah, and right. He always used to do these sponsorships and use old video sound clips from jingles and stuff. It was great. It was great. I really hope that he gets another one going because I enjoy listening to him.
He's doing In Dark Places right now with
Yeah,
Junebug that
he does the like cryptid
stories.
updates and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's awesome. I love that podcast.
Yeah, it's good. Well, it's Junebug, so it's gonna be good.
Yeah, Junebug's good. Another good dude as well.
But yeah, I mean, so I really wasn't familiar with your podcast, but again, there's so many. It's hard to keep up. But I mean, what kind of viewership do you have? I mean,
Um,
it's pretty good.
some do, some are like I've interviewed Joe Teti from Discovery Show, Dual Survival. All our interviews have thousands of views. One of them has 14,000 views.
Nice.
Yeah, some of them get about 40, 50 views. And but when I
Huh.
was doing it consistently, I was averaging about 200, 300 views per video. But where I'm working now and stuff, and don't do it every day, it's went down.
Right, I get it. Well, it's hard. It's hard to do stuff like this every day,
But I do it every weekend now.
right? So,
Definitely.
so what other things is there to do that you are interested in about the paranormal?
I also had a radio show, an online radio show for a year. Yeah, it was on it was on a radio station that's not around now. I ain't gonna. Uh, yeah, it was on a radio station that's no longer around right now. Possibly might be coming back on a radio station next month. I don't know. We'll see. We'll
Well,
see
good luck. Good
if
luck.
that happens or not. And
I
yeah,
mean, I would love to do something full time, but I know a lot of people burn themselves out having to make content every
that,
week
that's what
or
I
every
did.
day.
Every day, I did it every day, and that's
Yeah,
what
it's
burned.
right. If you're working full time, if that's not your full time job, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky I can, tie my shoes when I get home from work sometimes, or untie them either,
Yeah.
depending on what state they are when I get there.
Yeah. Have you heard of Mike Goldberg from the UFC? He did the UFC for 20 some years with Joe Rogan. I've had him on my show too.
Nice.
Yeah. He's a good dude, Mike Goldberg is.
Right. Well, when you can get good people, it's always easier, right?
Definitely. I've had Kid Cash on from WWE. He was a former WWE cruiserweight champion. He was a wrestler.
So what other paranormal people have you had on? I know you had Joe on.
Oh, you talking about Joe DeHoyos?
Yeah.
He's a good
Yeah,
dude.
he's a good guy.
I haven't really had too many ghost hunters on. More Bigfoot researchers. I've had who's that? The biggest dog man researcher out there, Jody Cook.
Right. I think so.
Yeah, I've had Jody Cook on. He's one of the biggest dog man researchers out there. Had him on. Obviously I've had Junebug on. Yeah. Um, ghost hunters. I had a lady on that. What's her name? Let me see. I forget her name, but she did ghost walks for Bardstown, Kentucky. So, yeah, I've had a
Nice.
bunch of different cryptid people on. I don't know if you heard of David Mills. He's a Bigfoot researcher out of Indiana.
No, I mean I'm up here in Maine with Lauren Coleman, right? He's got the International Cryptozoology Museum right here in Portland, and it's some of the stuff's kind of hokey, but it's fun, right? He's got a big stuffed Bigfoot that you can take a selfie with. It's a fun place to visit. Like anytime that anyone comes to Maine, I usually try to take them there. At least they'll remember their trip. So
Yeah. Have you heard of Don Neal? I've had him on. He's a Bigfoot researcher out of Kentucky.
I'm not really familiar with a lot of the different researchers. I mean, I know a few of them, but there's so many. All right, there's so many,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's there's so many people in the different fields. Like I know for some reason I know a lot of ghost people now because 2 years ago I spoke at the Warrens Paracon in Connecticut, so I got to know a lot of people, and obviously UFO people just because working with them. But I guess I think it would be fun to do a show, and I would maybe want to do one day, but it is a lot of work.
It
It's
is. It is.
some days you just don't feel like talking.
Definitely. I've had obviously Russ Kelly on. He's been on BBC. He's been on Coast to Coast before. He co-hosted Coast to Coast like 3 or 4 times.
Nice.
He's probably the biggest person I've had on in the
Who's
cryptid
that?
world besides Jody Russ Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, see, Coast to Coast is what captured just about every one of us. Right. I remember early 90s when Art was doing Dreamland and like tuning in on a Sunday night. I like couldn't sleep. I had insomnia. I tuned in like midnight or whatever. And here's this guy talking about UFOs. I'm like, what is this? Right. And it's like, I don't think I've slept since. Right. Because all the shows are on at night. So,
yeah, he's definitely the legend.
but he just brought so much to the table for a lot of people. I mean, he did a show on, I don't even know how legit Mel's Hole, right? About a guy that had a hole in his backyard that was supposedly the deepest hole ever. Yep, here we are. Thanks, Art. We're all listening to you talk about some guy who's got a hole in his backyard for 4 hours because you made it fascinating.
Yeah,
But
he's definitely the goat of cryptid or um guest podcast broadcasting.
right, I mean, but there's still some good guys out there though that are
Yeah,
still doing it,
definitely. What is it? UFO Bigfoot Chronicles. Bigfoot Chronicles is big. They do a really good job.
right?
Yeah, Bigfoot Chronicles is pretty good. I remember they talked to somebody here from Eastern Kentucky. Somebody was telling me about it. I thought I had the opportunity to listen to it. Definitely need to listen to that.
Now, who's on that one? Who hosts that?
I have no idea. I've just heard them. They got like a million some subscribers on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
Was I know a guy from my hometown, Jeremiah Fountain. He's a Bigfooter. He's got a show on YouTube. He's a good guy.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good people out there, man. And there's some good people in the cryptid world.
Oh, yeah. I wish I had more time to do that kind of thing. I hope to maybe go and do some of that because back in the 70s there was a famous sighting here in Maine, in Durham, Maine. The town happens to be where Stephen King's from, but it's known as the Bigfoot Gorilla, and he was spotted in people's backyards and down by the river, and the local media told people, hey, if you're in the woods wearing a gorilla costume, you might want to stop doing that because you're going to get shot. Right. But it's probably one of the more famous sightings of a Bigfoot in Maine. And to me, just because of it's the close proximity, I lived out there, I could see that that was probably a place where Bigfoot would be. Because there was tons of wildlife where I lived in that area. There was, you'd look out back your backyard, there were moose in the backyard, right? And you'd see coyotes running along the tree line. So why wouldn't there be a Bigfoot out there? I mean, there's nothing out there, nothing but trees.
Definitely, man. That's actually what people were saying. Bigfoot isn't scared of people. Bigfoot just wants to be left alone.
Right? Who knows? It would be interesting once they're able to prove that there is one, because there's so many questions. Right? What what is their culture that there's no bones been found? Right? They must have a culture where they bury the bodies, much like humans, right? That they just don't, they're not like a regular mammal where they just die in the field and just rot there. There must be some kind of a culture within the Bigfoot community where they gather up the carcass and bury it and hide it from people.
Definitely, man. It's creepy. It is cool stuff though, man. I mean, I love listening to it, and I do love UFOs, man. It's it's the funnest thing to research, to be honest.
Well, there's a lot of really good books by a lot of good people. I mean, if I turned my camera on and you would see the bookshelf is nothing but like UFO books and cryptid books,
Yeah,
right? There's just it's 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 endless. I mean, if you can go down that rabbit hole on just about any subject within cryptids or UFOs. That's why, again, I have not really done much research on the skinwalkers, because it's just something that I feel I would probably spend way too much money reading about.
definitely. There's a woman actually. I can't say her name or anything, but there was a UFO sighting here in 1967, February 6th. Our news around here reported on it, and I messaged a woman that liked the post, and she actually seen it and stuff, but she would not come on my podcast and talk about it. But she told me some stuff about it, and she said that it actually happened, and they seen like bright lights and stuff.
Right. I mean, like I had a sighting with a friend of mine when I was in high school where we both witnessed a craft take off from our local golf course. And to this day, he will not talk to me about it. He refuses to acknowledge that we saw that thing together. So it's just weird because
She wrote,
some people just can't accept it.
yeah, she wrote that she wouldn't feel comfortable because of how people reacted. Yeah. And it actually makes her uncomfortable, like when the local newspaper and the news network talks about it. So
Right. I get it. I understand. Right. But if she did come and talk on your show, she'd be talking to other people who are probably open to that. Right. They're not going to judge her for being a weirdo.
I don't think I'll be able to get her on. She's I tried once though, but there's actually yeah, it was in February the 6th of 1967. I'm actually looking at it. It says people thought it was some kind of joke.
Hmm.
Yeah, they notified the federal agency in Louisville about it. So yeah, man, there's a bunch of people seeing it. It says here. Yeah. That's what I was looking at.
See, my brother, see, I come from a big family, and we've never talked about this. But once I got into doing the research, I asked my brothers if they'd ever seen anything, and they were like, "Oh yeah." My one brother, when he was a kid, snowmobiling with some other kids, they witnessed a craft where they actually went back into the house and got other kids to come out and look at it. But it's not documented anywhere other than them. I'm fairly certain a lot of people have seen things and have just never shared the stories. But I also found that anybody who says they don't believe it, and they're like, I don't believe in any of that. If you talk to them enough, there's always, well, there was that one time. That was that one time where that one thing happened. But you said you didn't believe any of it. But it's not true. People people are afraid to believe in it.
Definitely, man. They're scared that there is something else out there besides human beings.
There is, right? But unfortunately there is. There's enough stories have been told for how many years? There's got to
How
be there's got to be some truth to it. I'm sorry, there just has to be. It may not be the truth that we all think that it is, but there's something to the story, right? Enough people have seen Bigfoot. There's got to be something to the story, right? Kind of like Champ. I went to the Champ Festival a few years ago, and when I was leaving, there was an old gentleman there, and he told me that nobody can see Champ in the sunshine anymore. He goes, but after a little bit of moonshine, everybody sees him.
yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, definitely probably here too. Probably there's some people that see stuff because this is the moonshine capital. These Appalachian Mountains. Well, the Appalachian Mountains go from Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. I think it actually goes close to where you're at.
Right. I just think they start changing the names of the range, but it's the same mountains, no matter how you like to look at it. If you look at the like a topographical map of the U.S., right, it's just the way that breaks down.
Yeah, it's on telling what's in these mountains, man. Huh? That there's
I,
some
I don't know
stories
if I'd
of
go looking. I,
no.
it might
Have
not come back.
Yeah, you're right. Have you heard of a cryptid called the knot deer? I think that's what it's called, the knot deer.
No. What's the story on that?
Um, I haven't did much research on it, but I found out about it. It's like some new cryptid people been seeing and stuff. Some people think that it's like a deer that has something wrong with it though.
It's weird. There's so many.
It like
Like
walks up on its legs and stuff.
it's like the hodag from Wisconsin. I'm pretty sure it's a made up cryptid, but it's just fun to talk about, right? Because the guy who carved the hodag says that only it eats bulldogs, but only on Sundays, right? It's a weird story, but it's a great beast. If you take a look at it, or or the melon heads from what Connecticut. They were
Yeah.
like they're like some weird family, and they all have like bald weird heads. Kind of like that X Files with the inbred family. Do you remember that one?
Uh-uh.
Oh, it's a creepy one. Your listeners will remember.
Yeah, there's like a UFO story from the 1950s here that I found as well. That's crazy, man.
Right again, the 50s were kind of like the highlight reel of a lot of that. Right, that's when it all really started going. The 40s and 50s.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there was a lot of UFO sightings around here. There still is. There was another girl that texted me. She took a picture of uh the entity type thing. It was kind of like odd. It was weird. It was a weird picture. You couldn't tell if it was like a orb or a craft or something. It was just like a basically like a red light that she had in the picture. It was like blurry and stuff. But she said whenever she seen the thing, I don't know what it was. It could have been. I don't really know what it was though. Like what she said she didn't know what it could have been, but her radio stopped playing right when that happened.
Really?
She also wouldn't come on air and talk about it, and she actually ended up deleting the picture off Facebook because some of the comments it was getting.
Yeah. Somebody had sent me a video, and there was a weird entity outside the window, and I don't know how legitimate it was, but because I see a lot of video, but it definitely made me feel weird by seeing it. So that's usually my judgment. My when I don't go to, yeah, that's a bunch of BS first, but if I get it just gives me that weird feeling. It's um, there's something to it.
Yeah. All she kept on telling me was over and over she didn't know what it was. She was pretty tore up about it. She just kept on saying I didn't know what it was. Yeah, it obviously scared her and stuff. And this scary part is, man, it's in the middle of nowhere, so it ain't near a town. It ain't near a shopping center. It ain't near anything. It's just mountains and a road.
And a red light,
There ain't no red light either.
just
Just middle of nowhere.
what did she film it with her phone or with like
Yeah, it was just a picture she took off of her phone and posted it on Facebook. And some of the comments was like it's fake and all that. And she ended up deleting the picture.
well, nobody wants to be called out for being a fake, right? That doesn't help anybody either, right?
I
Instead,
don't think it was fake though, because I know some of the people that know her, and I don't think she'd lie about it. But yeah, she was terrified.
see, I would rather have somebody explain to me what it is than say that it's fake. Okay, what is it then if it's not what I think it is? That would be more helpful. Because I mean, I belong to some paranormal groups and UFO groups, and I try to explain some of the phenomena that can cause these types of pictures. Because people aren't going to learn if you just make them feel like a jerk, right? It's like, no, keep doing it, keep looking for it. Because that's my hope, is that maybe I'll actually get to see something, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting, man. And she's actually from my county, so I know actually where this area is and stuff. And it would be hard to fake a sighting there
Well,
because of the terrain and all that.
maybe you should go out. Maybe you should set up some cameras.
Definitely. I'm definitely interested in doing some stuff around the lake because there's the lake around here seems to be a hot spot for Bigfoot sightings and UFO sightings.
Right. Well, water tends to seems to drive a lot of that stuff. Right. Well, at Maine, right back, I think it was the 70s, they had a big abduction case, the Allagash Five, where these five art students were out camping, and the next thing they know, they're in their canoe in the middle of the lake, and the fire that they had lit was out. Right. Pretty solid case.
Pretty creepy too.
Yeah, right. I'd be start asking if what was in that drink.
Was there like did like time go ahead? Like it was a certain time, and then when they looked down,
Yeah,
in the
it
water?
was a missing time.
Yeah, you hear that a lot with the abduction cases.
Or people, right? Well, they remember being in one place and their car's in a whole other place. They don't remember how they got there.
Uh, Seen that a bunch on Unsolved Mysteries. Actually, that's one of my favorite shows, man. I don't know if you like it.
It's pretty good. There used to be a lot of good shows. There used to be a show called Sightings years ago that was really good, and I believe they had some footage on there that seemed fairly legitimate, a different craft.
What channel was that on? Is it on
It,
any streaming?
it used to. No, I don't think it streams anywhere, but it was used to be on like the Sci-Fi Channel a long time back in the '90s, I think. I mean, it didn't have the production value some of those new shows have. So it was pretty good.
Yeah, actually, Russ Kellett is going to be on Discovery Plus. Speaking of that, he's the guy I've interviewing next week. Russ Kellett, he's going to be on Discovery Plus here soon. You should definitely get up with him and talk to him. He's cool dude.
I'll have to take a look. I'll look them up. Let's see what's going on. Now, what is cryptid or UFO?
He got abducted. That's the guy that got abducted. Has all them books and stuff.
Okay.
Good books too, man. He's legit.
I mean, God bless him, and then he can write about it because a lot of people that I talk to have a hard time talking about it
He
because it's not. I don't. A lot of people, it's not a pleasant experience. It's not they're not getting the warm fuzzies.
it's made him have some health problems and stuff. And
Oh, I bet.
yeah,
I mean, just probably the PTSD from it. Probably,
definitely,
probably can't be helpful.
definitely. Yeah, man. But I definitely appreciate you being on, brother. And
Hey, thanks for having me. Let me know if you want to talk some more sometime,
absolutely, man. And if I ever hear any UFO sightings here in
next time I
Eastern Kentucky,
come, I'll come loaded for bear. I wasn't sure, what you wanted to talk about this time, but you give me a little homework. Next time I'm on, we'll really you know do it up.
absolutely, man. This has been fun.
Yeah, I was anytime I get a chance to just talk about stuff, it's good.
You had some good stories, man, and that's all. That's what we're looking for. Some good stories. Appreciate that, man. Yeah,
All right, hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
definitely. I want to thank UFO Fred for being on. Y'all have a good night. God bless.